Thanks all for being here. My name is Mark Moyer. You're in the Win Again Clubroom, brought to you by Win Again, and lots of our fantastic sponsors, supporters, etc. I've got a couple of really impressive gentlemen here today that I believe they may not see it as much so, but I believe that they're fantastic role models because they're currently competing. They're currently professional athletes, but at the same time, they're running businesses. And most athletes, the vast majority of athletes, either don't prepare for life after sport, or they may do a little bit of, gee, I might do this, I might do that, but they don't really get involved. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is really, number one, what made them decide that they wanted to get involved with their a new business and career while they're still playing, but also, what kind of advice that they might give current athletes and recently retired athletes to really sort of elevate their games to a whole new level. So without further delay, I'm going to do a couple quick little intros. I'm going to first start with Curtis. So Curtis Mitchell, really impressive gentleman. I just started a dialogue with him a few weeks ago, but he was born in Daytona Beach. Not a bad place to be born. It's amazing. It's beautiful down there. And he loves being a Floridian. He did start college in San Diego, but then went to Texas A&M, set all kinds of records there. Then he went on to become I'm going to make sure I get this right, but let's see, the 2013 USA 200 meter silver medalist, the 2013 USA World Championship bronze medal winner, and the 2014 fastest dude in the country in the 200 meters. So look, bottom line, he's fast, like super fast, okay? And does a ton of training, but at the same time, that's not enough for him. He wants to be incredibly successful in the business world. And he started his own company, Velocity, that he's really heavily involved in real estate and financing. Great guy. So, and if I missed anything up, Curtis, you'll tell me. So why don't you come join us? And I hope I did okay, though. I think I did all right with that. How'd I do with that? Okay.
Yeah, you did good. You did good.
Shoo. And then Alex Katz. I've known Alex for a couple of years now. He's been in the club room a few times. He grew up on Long Island, so that direction there. And he's after a pretty impressive standout high school career out on Long Island. He's a minor league baseball pitcher, and he's currently, or was most recently in the Cubs organization. He's a free agent now. So if any of you out there know connections in Major League Baseball, this dude can throw fucking fast. Did I say that word? I didn't mean to say it that loud. Throws two-seamer, four-seamer, eight-seamer, 26-seamer, throws them all, 95 plus or whatever it is. He can really bring it. But aside from that, okay, he's started his own company, Stadium Custom Kicks, a few years ago, and it is growing like a banshee. It's crazy. It's what they do is they do original artwork on athletes' cleats and their athletic shoes and so forth. He's huge in Major League Baseball right now, but also not getting really big in other professional sports, including football. I think what we're going to do is make sure that by the time this conversation is over, Curtis is going to introduce him to all kinds of track and field stuff too. So anyways, Alex, why don't you come on in and join us as well? Thanks, Alex. All right, glad you could make it, all that stuff. Welcome, gentlemen. So the very first question I'm going to ask, I'm going to throw it over to Curtis. All right, Curtis, tell me a little bit about, here you are, you're training quite a bit, you're a fast guy and all that stuff, and you've got that mindset, the athletic mindset. You want to be successful. That's, you've got a driving force to be like that. But what is it that's driving you towards wanting to be, an entrepreneur and a business owner right now?
Yeah, I just think, I came in the sport early, so the focus in the sport for me was to make a name for myself, making sure I put everything into what I was trying to accomplish in the sport of track and field. That window is very small, and it took me 3 years to get on that podium with Usain Bolt. But I just know what it takes. And during that time, just being ultra focused on track and field specifically, when things started to arise and I started to get injured or, changing some different things in training and I wasn't competing, more as I would like. And just being an Adidas athlete, I was so reliant on just that Adidas contract. And it took me to go through the process to realize, hey, man, everything that I'm doing right now is predicated and dictated off of this shoe company. So I'm in a sense controlled. If I want to bet on myself, if I'm facing an injury or if I'm not top 10 in the world, top 5 in the world, things can be altered. So I think, throughout my journey, I've always had it in the back of my mind. It's another level. It's a whole nother level outside of the game. This is definitely a stepping stone, and I want to maximize it. But I just think my hunger for wanting more financial literacy, wanting to build more of creating wealth for myself, my family, and just looking at the bigger picture. And so I just think I was just fueled by that, knowing that I had to take responsibility for myself, to be able to put myself in position where I'm able to last long. So I think it just came from that, and I just really want to be successful, give everything that I got into the sport of track and field, give it to my business, and go to the next level. So
That's awesome. And so, Alex, I have to think that you've got the same drive, but also a lot of what you do really ties in with the creative side of things too. So, what was it that I know we talked about this before, but I'd love for especially some of the new folks here to hear the story about what compelled you. One day you're thinking, this shoe looks pretty crappy. I need to change it. Or what started this?
I was with the Chicago White Sox at the time. That's the team that drafted me, and they were super strict with colors. Obviously the team colors are black and white, but they were super strict with the minor league players. Pretty much had to be 100% black. Even my black cleats with the white Nike check, they made me Sharpie that out. So, as many of you know, minor league baseball players aren't paid much money. I think less than 1% of what major league players are made or make. So there's that big gap there. So, obviously I didn't sign for a lot of money. So a lot of guys, even though they're not getting paid much salary wise, they're living off their signing bonus. So, I didn't sign for a lot of money. So I knew that for me to chase a dream and make it to the big leagues, I didn't want not having money. I didn't want finances to be the reason why I'm forced to retire. So, um, you know, throughout those first couple of years in pro ball, I would always think of, ways that I could start a business, or how can I start a business that will be successful, that I could still do while playing, and it won't, I could do it remotely, obviously when I'm in the season traveling, and something that's not going to distract me. So, I actually started buying and selling shoes in the off season. I would find some cool Jordan shoes and stuff like that, throw them up on eBay, and it was good side money. But that kind of led me into taking the sneaker game to the next level. So when I got invited to play in the World Baseball Classic in 2017, that was by far the biggest stage I've ever played on at that point. So I knew that would be a cool opportunity to wear some cool looking cleats, especially since our team colors were royal blue and silver. The silver grayish color. It would be cool to have on cleats. So basically just painted a pair of cleats for myself for the tournament, and posted them on Instagram, and started a little side business. And one of my friends back home would paint, and during the season I would run the business side, the marketing side. And it wasn't until two years later, 2019, that we started adding artists to the team. And we've been adding about a new artist every month now. So we have about 25 artists now. So really didn't really make any money those first couple of years. Made like a few $1,000s here and there in total, which is all right. You're not going to complain, and you got to start somewhere. But it really didn't turn into a legitimate business, where I could actually picture this being, a full-time job eventually, till 2019, just a couple of years ago.
And well, it's interesting because I think sometimes people wonder, well, were you classically trained in art and that sort of thing? But no, you were looking at it as I mean, maybe you were, but you were looking at it as a business opportunity and filling a gap, right? And what's exciting is that now I think that not only are you growing in baseball, but tell me a little bit about some of the growth that's happening in some of the other sports, and then also where would you love to go towards?
Yeah. So, I've mentioned a few times in the past about being a professional athlete. I'm sure, Curtis, you could say the same thing. Being a professional athlete has opened the doors for many other opportunities, obviously, off the field, whether it's small or large, and some small things turn into large things as well. Trial and error. It's all trial and error. You don't know if something's going to be successful unless you try it. Um, so
Well,
being a professional athlete definitely opened the door for me to start this business and really get into baseball. And obviously we by starting and expanding in mostly baseball, that definitely opened the doors and gave us exposure to those other sports. But obviously we had to start somewhere, and that somewhere was in the baseball world with the connections that I had. And then we started slowly growing to those other sports, and there's still a long ways to go in those other sports. There's so many different sports and markets that we haven't hit yet.
But now, I don't mean I mean, Curtis, we're going to be all over you in a second, promise. But I guess the follow-up question is, are there some sports where it's sort of a no-brainer, or are there some that are also like still restricted in terms of what can be on the shoe itself?
Yeah, I'd say pretty much all the sports allow it at this point. Even hockey, which is probably one of the last to allow players to get creative with their footwear. They just passed a rule just a few weeks ago that players could wear team colors, I believe, on their skates. I still have to look into it. It's still very limited, but in the past, we've had a lot of NHL players reach out, but a lot of them said like, "Hey, I'm trying to think of something to do, but I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to be fined." So I think hockey will get there eventually, but some sports are just slower than others.
Well, that's the beauty of this, is it's FOMO, right? It's basically once one of these athletes does it, then the rest are going to want to have it done. So I think I'm hoping that you're on the verge of needing 75 artists and not 25, right? So that's pretty awesome. So bouncing over to Curtis. So tell me a little bit about your company, and what was it that for you that one morning you woke up, or that one day you said, you know what, I need to be an entrepreneur. I need to run a business, and here's how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I've always been into the real estate space. Real estate has always attracted me. So, like with anybody who's, researching real estate, it's always about finding your lane and, what entry point are you coming in at? And obviously that's one of the best vehicles in, relations to generational wealth and a good, safe investment. So I was already intrigued with real estate, and just wanted to take it a step further after I started, educating myself. I'm in the finance space, everything about commercial lending, the mortgage business, things like that, finding a problem and coming up with a solution. In real estate, one of the main reasons why small businesses fail because of lack of capital. And, you see a lot of real estate investors, they seek capital all the time to run across these deals. And the guys that have money, they have the insider, information on all the best deals. And, I'm always just being a number guy, seeing how I can put something that I'm passionate about. I'm really about, getting my asset class up and less liabilities. Like I said, going through my own personal journey. I think that's the best teacher, going through your own personal journey and figuring out, okay, what am I interested in? What do I see myself? How do I want to build this? So when it comes to building companies, scaling companies, I took the construction route because, when you talk about new development, property development, land, all these things interest me. So, I decided to go with a construction company. I want to get into building. I want to get into buy and hold when you talk about new doors or multi-families, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, once I have access to this capital, I can run across these deals, the amazing deals, and be able to control the market, be able to lend the money out. And I just think, what better way, right? Coming in, not having financial literacy, it's only right that I go into this field and dominate this field. Now I become a guy that knows financial literacy. I know finances, and I just didn't want to know it on a small level or have somebody manage my money or investments. I wanted to take control and say, if I'm going to get in this space and do real estate, I want to do it at the highest level. I want to scale companies and businesses. I want to learn about systems, and I want to be able to put a team, because I know my skill set, my characteristics of, leadership, entrepreneurship, consistency, showing up every single day. I just know that will play big for me in the business space. So that's why I went, in that route.
Now, Curtis, what's impressive, what I'll tell you, is that there are very, very few athletes that have that mindset, and it's unfortunate because it's to me, look, there are benefits to having an agent. There's benefits to having a financial advisor and a legal advisor and blah, 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 all that stuff. But it's also incredibly important that an athlete understands a lot of what those people are doing. They don't just say, "Oh no, I leave it to my person, I leave that to them." I need to focus on my sport. But a
Mhm.
lot of studies have shown that when the brain is not as worried about, like if the weight of your financial, the weight on your shoulders is not there because you understand what's going on, you're going to compete better on the field. So
Correct.
sometimes it makes a lot more sense for, people to, or for athletes to really just, even if it's a small amount of knowledge, but really learn as much as, as you can about certain things so that you understand what your financial advisor, your lawyer, whatever it is are doing. And in your case, Curtis, you sort of went even farther. What was it? Was it something that you sort of learned kind of when you were younger and when you're a teenager and so forth, or was it something that developed as you were later on
What
in life?
what is that specifically?
Meaning this interest in wanting to learn and absorb everything and wanting to,
Oh,
you know,
yeah, no, I've always been super curious. I've always been a learner. My dad is like that. My dad seeks a lot of knowledge, and just now, I guess as I matured and got into this space, I just love seeking knowledge, man. I'm a big podcast guy. I'm a big reader. I'm a guy that just researches, so that's kind of like my skill set and knowing how to really hone in on, because I realize like in my sport, I know it's going to be, the athletic component. We obviously know that when you talk about game changes and a competitive advantage and the mental, aspect of it as well. But when you talk about business, it's a whole nother ball game. So what separates the top 1% is the top earners, the successful and the unsuccessful. Success leaves clues. So, all the information that you ever need is in the books, is in the knowledge. When the student is ready, the master will appear. And I understand all the greats, they say that. So if I can submerge myself with more knowledge, the more value I become, the more valuable I become, the more I know, the more I'm able to navigate and diversify and I add value to myself. So I just see it now, like I said, just taking that athletic mindset that we're specifically talking about, balancing athletics and business, it just translating one mindset and focusing over to the next, but understanding the same rule in the same things applies, the same script. Be in this field, educate myself, gain the knowledge, and go out and execute.
I love it. That's fantastic. And it's interesting that you see that. Is now, have you considered? I mean, is there a? Have you tried doing some mentoring yourself, or sort of sharing some of that passion for knowledge and so forth with some of the people around you? Is it tough to do that because sometimes it's tough to steer people a certain way? What have you seen?
Yeah, 100%. It's only tough because seeing is believing.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, whether it's a new business that you're starting or any new dream or any new thing that you're doing, people don't want to listen until they actually see results. So if they want to tie success, well, you go do it first, and then we will listen. But when you're kind of in the process and you learn, people kind of brush it off. So you find that. But I just think people respect when you take action and they follow you, and when they're ready, you offer advice when you can. You tell them based off experiences. So that's the main thing. But just taking massive action and showing people actions and being action driven, ultimately gets people attention to make things a little easier.
That's great. So, Alex, echoing what Curtis is saying, I mean, obviously, it seems like you're in the same position where you're pretty focused on hearing and learning from others and so forth. But is there anybody that specifically inspired you to want to do this? Like otherwise,
Uh,
like in terms of really taking that business to hold. I mean, because you started out, and then you really stuck with it, and now you're really pressing the gas to the floor, right?
yeah, I'd say no one in particular. I'd say
Mm.
just I'm a big observer. I like to kind of pick bits and pieces and learn from many different people, and that goes to my playing career also. I don't like working with one specific coach. I like hearing things and reading and studying different pitchers, different coaches, and seeing what works best for me. So the same goes from the business standpoint. I'd say I wouldn't say, I don't know, necessarily idolize, but definitely research guys like Shaquille O'Neal, other athletes. Obviously, I'm not even close to Shaq's level, and I don't want to compare myself to him at all. But he obviously is a Hall of Fame basketball player who's a great businessman. So I feel like there's more athletes who have success in business have success on the field, on the court, or off the court as well, then more now than there ever have been. So definitely, those are definitely people who I look up to and research and observe. And a quick little story: a few years ago, with one of the teams I was with, I was actually called into the office by one of the people in the front office, and they basically said, "Hey, you run the shoe business, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You have people helping you with that?" I said, "Yeah, there's a couple people helping." He said, "All right, give them all the responsibilities. We don't want you doing anything with it." And I was so shook right there. I had no idea what to say. I just said, "Okay, no problem." And I probably think about that at least once a month for the last 3 years. Like, what did he mean by that? There's plenty of athletes who are successful and do other things besides playing their sport. And in fact, I think this actually helps me as an athlete because it keeps me more focused, more diligent with my time. And I'm not constantly thinking about the sport because baseball is a mental game. You can't be thinking about it 24/7. Otherwise you'd go crazy. So just thought that would be an interesting story to share and something I constantly think about and wonder what he meant by that. And I probably will never have that answer.
I had that answer. The guy's ignorant, completely ignorant, because, quite frankly, I'm assuming, and without knowing who it is, but maybe he spent his entire life in the sport and really never developed himself any other interests. I mean, what happens is, especially in business, you'll see that if, people are sort of limited sometimes to the box that they're in, and some people struggle to get out of that box. And it sounds like he was in that box where he's thinking, look, I can't have any of these guys, any of these players thinking about anything else other than the sport on the, and what's going on in the field. And he's limited to that, right? So I'm sure you rattled him when he saw that you were successful at starting something else. And he was like, no, 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 you can't do that. And I think you're going to run into that. Both of you are going to run into that as time goes on. There's going to be people that are out there to sort of hold you back and limit you. And it may not even be because they have bad intentions. It may just be because it's what they know. And sometimes you need to break out of that box a little bit and trust your intuition and your gut because it got you this far. I mean, you're both obviously elite athletes and you both worked super hard to get there. So now it's a question of continuing that mindset and driving your businesses forward. Does that make some sense, Curtis? What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Have either of you had, I mean, Alex, you just gave a great example. Curtis, have you had anybody that's kind of said to you, hey man, I don't know if that's going to work. It's, kind of been a naysayer or not necessarily?
Not to that degree in my face because I'm real, private with what I'm kind of like doing. And if I share my dreams and thoughts with people, it's people, I call them my board of advisors, people that I trust in my life, that I consult with. And I never do nothing. I'm a confident person. And that's not from ego. It's from whatever I choose to put my mind to. I know I'm going to put in the work to get it done. That's just how I think. If I'm interested in it, and I know I can. It's no hard work that I'm not gonna do. I'm gonna do whatever it takes. So, but you always had the naysayers. They didn't expect me. People didn't expect me to be one of the fastest men, in the history of the world. People didn't expect me to get the bronze medal. People didn't expect me to break records and do the things that I've done so early on in my career to this point. But for me, a guy that comes from humble beginnings, you use that as fuel. You're gonna always have that. So I don't necessarily to prove a naysayer wrong. That just comes with it because as you get older, as you mature in mindset, mentally, that half of the time people projecting them fears on you is something to do with them. They're oftentimes fans of you. They actually like you. They actually support you, or they literally just afraid of them. They're afraid. They're scared to think outside of the box. They're not chasing their dreams. So it's something wrong with them. So I've become really good at kind of understanding that this is my vision, this is my goal. People are gonna doubt, but they doubt all the greats, So that's just what you sign up for. And if you don't want to be judged, just be average. That takes no effort at all, and everybody will like you. So that's just my thought process.
No, that's fair. All right, so I'm going to ask each of you one last thing before I go too much further. On the right side, you'll see there's a chat, participants, and Q&A. Everybody, if you have specific questions you'd like to ask either Curtis or Alex, please put them in that Q&A section, and and we'll make sure that we have a chance to ask you guys those questions. All right. So one of the questions I have next is a sort of, and I'm going to jump to Alex first on this one. You know, as you run this business, do you find that you're sort of attacking things day by day? Do you have, and have you put together sort of where you plan on or hope to see this X time from now, like a year from now, 5 years from now? Or is it just like, because you've got to focus on your sport and some other things, you know, are you just kind of like still trying to grow it, but you haven't really set specific goals in mind?
Yeah, definitely set short-term and long-term goals for myself and the company.
Hmm.
But I'd say it's a combination of both of those things that you said. Is a lot of it is definitely day by day, attacking things day by day because new opportunities present themselves. Some of the goals that you had. So I think it's important to have goals for yourself, but make sure they're not in stone. You know, be willing to adjust those things.
Now, do you think that like, is it something where you have, is it a very specific, like, you know, they always talk about SMART goals, right? But a you know, specific, measurable, actionable, and the other two. But are they, you know, is it something where you say, gee, in, you know, 3 years, I'd like this to be $1 million business or $5 million business, or is it something where instead you're saying, I'd love to have contracts with the NHL and with NBA and so forth, or is it, I mean, is it a money thing? Is it just a you know, what do you have in mind?
It's mostly logistics. It's a unique business because everything is done by hand. You know, you're
Yeah.
paying for the service. You know, so um, I tried to make growing the business as simple as possible, but obviously it has to be done the right way. You know, because you know it's not like you know it's not a business where we need capital to grow. We need skilled labor to grow, and there's plenty out there. You know, we could definitely there's definitely plenty of talented artists that have reached out, and you know obviously we haven't hired yet, but you know it's got to be done appropriately. So I think we're on the right track as far as growing, and we've been able to pretty much add artists and grow our platform and our sales at the same pace. You know, and if one grows faster than another, we're able to catch up fairly quickly with the other one. So it's worked out. It's worked out pretty well over the last few years.
Well, I'm assuming that this is also a business that you're in, that you know, when one player has something that they really like, the other teammates or the other people say, "Wow, where'd you get that? I'd like that too," and then it grows from there. So it's almost like the quality of your work sells itself.
Yeah, no, that's definitely been a key factor in this business. I think that's the cool thing about creating a product that's unique, that's custom. It's always going to
Mm.
stand out. You know, that's the purpose of the product. You know, if we just made regular sneakers and just plain white, plain black, plain blue, you know, people will blend in. But everything we do is super unique and stands out. You know, even if it's a simple design, it's still unique compared to the basic Nike cleats that you know maybe someone's teammate got at Dick's Sporting Goods. Right, there's always going to be that unique factor. So early on when we were small, there'd be little league dads reaching out and trying to get 50% off, saying, "Oh, if my son wears them, his whole team will order." Well, in the back of my mind,
Uh,
that's how any product works. Any cool product that stands out, right? If you see something cool, you're
yeah,
gonna ask them, even if it's a stranger, where you got that from. So, um, you know, that's definitely been huge in helping us grow, especially on the social media, um,
yeah.
in social media, because you know even paying customers will want to promote the products, which is great. You know, because obviously now you're obviously making money and still getting that promotion out of it.
That's cool. You know, I not to, I'm certainly not sort of by nature a fanboy kind of a thing, but Alex, I know you've gotten texts from me at random times saying, "Holy crap, I think I just saw your cleats on national TV or whatever, or the Yankees game or whatever it is." So it is, I'm sure it's got to be very fulfilling for you to see examples of, you know, see it mentioned during the broadcast and so forth about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool to see it on TV. I think sometimes it's even cooler to see it on TV or see the camera zoom in on it than actually seeing going to a game and seeing it in person. I think it's just cool to get that exposure on that scale.
No, it is, and especially when they mention and so forth. So that's awesome. So, Curtis, in your case here, is it something? Tell me a little bit about how you plan on growing your company in the next couple of years, and if you were to, um, meet some new people and get some new introductions, like to you, what direction do you want? Like, what area of your business do you really want to see grow?
Yeah, I think, for me, it's all about adding, a team and putting in systems in place to really scale, understanding that I can't be army. So that's why I was telling you, really being intentional on having that team around me and everybody playing a specific role to get more leads, to build more relationships. I want to be able to put myself in position where I work on my business and not in the business. And I think that's why I changed the game, because I'm able to free up time to work on more, to network, to build a relationship, to close more deals, to be more efficient at the closing deals process and really figure out that part of what's that sweet spot. And once I figure out that sweet spot, I feel like I will get the momentum that I want and really change the game. There's really no looking back from that point. So I just think meeting like-minded individuals, staying on top of things, really being intentional on diversifying my portfolio, and just trying to build a team and put systems in place.
And then you're going to build massive developments, right? Somewhere
Correct. Yep. New
in,
development.
yeah.
Yep.
All right, because
Yeah.
I want to be able to drive by somewhere and see a giant sign it's like velocity and shows like a guy, like, I don't know if the logo is going to be like a guy running really fast or something. We'll talk
Business
about that.
velocity. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk.
All right. Anyway, that's awesome. So I've got a couple of quick questions that people have lofted in there. Renato says, unfortunately, knowing that many people have biases, how do you respond to people who question your credibility in business? And I think part of it's referencing, gee, you're an athlete, how could you possibly know about business, that kind of a thing. How do you each of you get around that? Alex, I'll start with you.
I've never really had anyone question my ability to run a business.
Right.
So I don't know how to answer that.
That's good.
I
And you know
think
what? And
yeah, I
go
think a
ahead.
lot of it just has to do with having a strong social media following from the business standpoint. I feel like people look at numbers. If we had
Mm.
500, 1,000 followers, even if our sales were good, maybe our website did great, SEO, whatever. Um, I feel like I feel like from the outside, people think our business is a lot bigger. It's still a small business. I think it's the opposite. I think people, think the business is a lot bigger than it is, which I feel like is a good problem. It's always good to look, big, from the outside look like it's a bigger business than it is.
That's great. Curtis, what do you think about that? Have you?
Yeah. Yeah, the same
Okay.
thing. Never really had, my credibility kind of question, but you just follow it up with results. Numbers, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. So I think, like you said, social media, a lot of people dictate what's going on, the credibility on social media, but you just follow that up with performance. Focus on following through, executing, doing your job, and then everything else will come. You eventually get the clients. People will start buying in. But like anything, you build from the ground up, and you just take it one day at a time, and just do it with integrity, and you don't have to really worry about being questioned.
So just a quick follow up on Renata's question, and I think it's an interesting one, and I'm going to adapt it a little bit to a lot of what we do here. There's obviously a lot of people that could be really interesting for you gentlemen to meet to really help with the business, whether it's, again, Curtis, we were talking about this, people involved with financing and mortgages and real estate, and Alex, in your case, introductions to people that work at leagues and teams and so forth that might want to be involved with purchases of what you do. But is there, there's got to be a little bit of a quid pro quo, right? It's got to be something where you guys say, hey, listen, I also have some people in my network that can help you guys out too. I mean, is there something that, um, do you ever feel that you're in a position where you can sort of offer up some of your connections in exchange for some of that other stuff? Or is it something where you're just focusing on how can those other people help you? I mean, how do you guys, sort of leverage that network of yours? Curtis?
Yeah, I always lead with, my network. I know I have a huge network, my brand, you know, even with my brand before I really got into like the business space out in construction, everything as far as an athlete is me packaging up, trying to add value, give back. You know, obviously with performances, you know, speed training ebooks or different things as far as, you know, whether it's health and wellness, performance. You know, I know a lot of guys in the business space as well. So it's all about, you know, meeting like-minded individuals, and I'm always in a position to kind of lend my network and help others get to where they're trying to go at and see how the relationship makes sense for the both of us. Adding value, I believe everybody should have people in their corner that's assets. So that's what 2022 is all about for me, and just surrounding myself with people who can equally give me what I can give them in return. So
It's good.
Yeah, no, I'm totally on board with what Curtis just said, and to to add on to what he said, it definitely goes both ways. And a lot of times, when someone reaches out to help me, I might not know exactly how I could help them, but maybe after a few minutes of conversation, an idea pops up, and that's probably the first thought in my mind. All right, this sounds awesome. Now, how can I give back? How, what can I do to help you? So I think it always goes both ways, and I think I think that's the way it should be.
That's great. Good answers, gentlemen. All right, one last question, and then we're going to jump back to the table in a bit. Anonymous, she asked a question. The question is basically, how did you guys develop your business sense? Is it some advice that you got, whether it's from family members? Do you have it, did you get this all the time from advisors, from coaches? I mean, what's the source of a lot of this expertise, Curtis?
yeah, a lot of it is just me just going out and searching for it and really becoming, trying to seek knowledge, trying to better myself. The same thing you will apply in sports, being a student of the game. You know, so a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of downtime from the sport, YouTube University, and just kind of following up every single day, being more consistent, being familiar with the terminology, um, changing up my specific situation. So I think now, like I said, when you talk about business coaches, advisors, this is how you want to do it when you come in the business space, thinking at a whole nother level. And I just think, having a lot of time, knowing that I want to be successful, I want to do things the right way. So I've sought out different mentors and different coaches that I will continue to do. And yeah, man, I understand the power of investing into yourself. The more I invest into myself, the more I'm able to, afford and meet certain people that can help me, because success leaves clues. So just knowing that, I think sports kind of teach you that you need a team and you can't do it solo. So
Perfect. That's great. And yourself, Alex? That was really good.
Yeah, I'd say three main things. One, just like what Curtis said, surrounding yourself with good people. Obviously, as the company grows, adding more of those people, and fortunate enough, we have 34 people working for our company, and all of them are good people. There's not one cancerous person on our team. So
That's great.
I definitely could not be doing this alone. Two, I'd say taking a lot of calculated risks. Obviously observing and talking to people, but taking risks, because obviously if you're trying to pave your own path and do things other people haven't done, you can't really look, you can't really pick a role model, because you're trying to do something different, and I think what we do is kind of different. It's a unique business. And then three, I watch a shit ton of Shark Tank, and I think it's a great show, and um, it's real, it's a real life business. So you could actually learn a lot from watching a show like that.
No, I agree. That's a great point. So one last question, gentlemen. Just if there's one piece of advice each of you could give a current athlete on, how do you even decide or figure out, or I mean, we've already talked about this a little bit, but what kind of advice would you give them if they wanted to maybe consider becoming an entrepreneur? Curtis?
one piece of advice I would tell them is, you definitely got to believe in yourself. Start with yourself. Ask yourself, how bad do you want it? How far are you trying to take this? And do the things that are needed, and understand that it isn't going to be easy. And I think when a person understands that it's not going to be easy, and that this is what you want, you're willing to do everything in your power to make sure that you reach that end goal. So I think trusting yourself, starts with you and your mindset, change the way you're thinking, and then start aligning yourself with people who can help you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to make a mistake and fail, and don't get caught up into comparison thinking that you need to come in and be making $1 million, your first year in business, because a lot of gurus, and we live in an instant gratification time with so many different ways to make fast money with cryptocurrency, NFTs. It's just a whole different platform, a whole different game. So I would tell people to be patient, play the long game, but definitely start with the end in mind. And once you do that, you're able to properly, get on course, get on board, and go through it. Because every successful entrepreneur, businessman, they got bruised up. It's blood, sweat, and tears. Nobody just comes in and just voila, you're successful and you're figuring all this out. Understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint. Come in it. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. It's a reason why you have business owners and you have consumers. It's a difference. It's a whole different ball game. So if you want to get into this entrepreneur, life, you got to really be about it, and understand what comes with it. And that's just would be my advice. Just do it with everything you got and have faith in yourself.
Nice. Love it. That's great. Alex?
Yeah, no, I think that was spot on. And I'd say my best piece of advice is to carry that same work ethic that you have and that you use to bring your athletic game to that level that you're currently at. And I know if I took off a week or two, this was actually something that my college coach at St. John's would always say. If you take off for 2 weeks from practicing baseball or working out, it's going to take you 2 more weeks to get back to where you were when you first stopped.
Yep.
Right, just to get back to that same level that you're at before, not even to get better. All right, and
exactly.
In business too, obviously people that work for us can take off a couple of days, can take off a week, can go on vacation and not work, not paint shoes. But being the business owner, I can't take off one day. If I take off a day, then we fall behind, and there's a lot of angry customers or whatever. There's always, it's nonstop work. And that's the same with my baseball career. There's always something to do. Even on a technically an off day, there's still something to do, whether it's stretching out, going for a jog, playing light catch, there's something to do. So I'd say a lot of, I'd say successful athletes or professional athletes, they're all successful. They went, they're all professional for a reason. They had success at some point. Right. I feel like all of us can become, good business people as long as we carry over that work ethic. And I have a lot of friends who, play professional baseball as well, and they try starting their own business, but they didn't carry that same work ethic over, and it, and they wonder why they don't see success. It's because they're not putting in that consistent work ethic. Like Curtis was saying. It's kind of like a disease now with people think, people expecting results right away. And, we didn't become professional athletes overnight. I'm 27 years old and I still feel like I'm practicing and learning as if I've never played baseball before. I'd say it's actually easier to run my business just because it took a boatload of work to get to where we at. Results in business than baseball, and I think it varies from sport to sport. Baseball is just one of those big mental games, and it's you could be the most skilled person out there and have no success just because it's such a mental game. So I think it varies from sport to sport.
Got it. Gentlemen, you've both been fantastic. I really appreciate your time today. Really such great advice, and the way you've both described things, you're really solid role models for other athletes and other people to really look up to. So I really appreciate that and appreciate your time. And each of you are on LinkedIn, so I know people can reach out to you that way. And Alex and Curtis, are there any other ways you want people to reach out to you, or is that the best, or what do you think?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also really heavy on Instagram, Mr._200. I share a lot of my story and my journey on Instagram. I'm on Clubhouse, that app a lot. I'll be more on here, but LinkedIn, and yeah, man, it's been amazing, man. I just thank you for putting this event on and being here and meeting Alex, and yeah, it's been awesome.
Great. Thanks, Curtis. And Alex, how about you? Go to the website.
For me personally, I'd say LinkedIn or Instagram is great as well. But
Great.
you know, if you're interested in some shoes, check out the website, stayingcustomkicks.com.
Nice. I like it.
Got to put that plug in at the end, right?
Of course you do. All right, gentlemen, listen, we're going to bounce back to the tables. I want you guys each hang out for a couple more minutes. There's a couple more last-minute introductions I want to make to you, but thanks again for being here, and have a great rest of your evening. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Later.